I am Greg Schaffer, and welcome to the Virtual CISO Moment. Dave McKenzie joins us today. He is a seasoned cybersecurity leader based in Scotland. He is the co-founder and director of Damn Good Security. Dave, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Well, we'd love to start as we usually do. I want to hear about your journey, your history, how and why you got started in this wonderful technology space, and what led you to being in an organization with such a damn good name.
The name is, you either love it or you hate it. If you hate it, you're probably not that much fun to work with. So, but how did I wanted to be I want to be a spaceman, right? Let's face it. I want to be a spaceman, like as a kid. And then I get told, no, you need to be a pilot and go through the Air Force or, Royal Air Force and stuff like that. And I was like, right, okay. So then I went off and I went, all right, okay. And then I started to learn to fly as part of the Air Cadets, stuff like that. And I was like, there's an awful lot of writing here. And my handwriting is terrible. And I hate handwriting stuff. And so I had to pivot. And then I went, all right, okay, well, what's the thing that doesn't mean you have to do lots of writing? And at that time, like computers came along and started hitting like the education streams. They were hitting like businesses and stuff like that. So I ended up in IT because I was a bit of a geek and I hated my handwriting. And that ended up being that. And so for years I did IT support, just helping. I mean, originally I was writing access databases, random mail, like mail recording and like payroll stuff and all that sort of malarkey. And then at one point the company had me working on a payroll database, except it was going straight into March and April, which for us is tax year. And so basically the entire department said, go away. And I'm like, right, what am I going to do? And they went, oh, go work on the IT help desk. And so I ended up doing IT support. I really loved the whole helping people. I've done some really random IT support jobs. I mean, back in the day, you had to go wearing shirt and tie to every job. And so I would be in a three-piece suit crawling under absolutely manky desks. Like
I know, been there myself too. It just never made sense.
I nearly lost my tie in the innards of an a cash machine, an auto teller. At one point, I hadn't tucked it in, and these machines on the inside are just cogs and suction and stuff like that. So I did lose.
Now that's a good case study, a good case to make rather for wearing clip-on ties. It's a safety feature, right?
Safety feature,
yeah. You won't get choked. You won't get your tie sucked in.
I started wearing three-piece suits there because it would always be tucked inside the waistcoat. Same like that. Prevention. I did have long hair at the time, so I did lose some hair in one of those at the summit. That was painful. And then I ended up doing a whole bunch of really random IT support jobs. I worked for Motorola at one point. I was in the fab area. So you're trying to do IT support on a $350 like compact machine that's connected to some etching machine that's in the fab that's etching the insides of microchips. And you're like, right, if that thing's off, it's like $750,000 an hour if it's off, and you've paid $350 for the machine that controls it. And lots of random stuff like that. That's where I spent year 2000 on a hill looking at one of the Motorola plants with everybody taking bets on whether it was going to explode or not, because we had absolutely no idea. And so I carried on doing IT support, and then I ended up joining RM Education, which does a massive amount of support for schools around the UK. And I was doing the IT support, like customers phoning up with all the, where's the any key? I have spoken to like 6-year-old children who could work the computer better than the teacher. And when you're talking someone through a command prompt to see like what can they ping and what can they not ping, and you end up getting put onto a child, you're like, this is a really weird experience. But education, because the way education is, it's one of these not well funded, and quite often the IT manager in the school is the last person in the staff room to say no. And so you end up with lots of really insecure networks. And so over time, I ended up being the security guy. I ended up doing an absolute ton of incident response and building proactive monitoring across hundreds of schools and stuff like that across the UK. Like when WannaCry came along, I had like 8,000 machines that I was going to patch on a Sunday afternoon. I was like, I pushed the button. And you're like,
oh, that's not.
It's going to work. There's hundreds of customers here. Oh, right. Because otherwise it was just completely impossible for us to, like, in a timely manner, patch them. And it was just, it would kind of cost a fortune. And yeah, they just, so I ended up doing that. And then after a while, an ex-colleague from RM Education reached out and said, you seem to be doing security stuff all the time now. Do you want to come do it for real? And that's how I ended up across in Quorum Cyber, which at the time was a startup. And the MD at the time, Ferry Chorosky, interviewed me, and I turned up in my suit, three-piece suit, tie tucked inside the waist. And yeah, it was like, and he told me that he hated me during the interview, and I thought that's I've never had that in an interview. And I went, I want to hire you for 2 different jobs. I was like, oh, right. Great. Okay. He then proceeded to give me a whole bunch of grief about wearing a suit and tie when they were like startup city. You know, everyone's sitting in shorts and t-shirt. And
well, you know, not sorry to interrupt, but I was going to ask about that. It's like about wearing the suit and the tie and the 3-piece there particularly to a startup, and if it made a difference or not.
For me, if I don't know what the culture is that I'm walking into, you kind of go with, well, what was normal. And so for me, it was like, when you turn up for an interview, you wear a suit and tie. And for me, a suit is a 3-piece suit because I'm just ingrained to tuck that tie in there. It also covers an absolute like ton of sins when it comes to shirts that are too baggy or not and getting creased and stuff like that. But
so it's always better to be conservative when you're dressing for interviews as opposed
to
like,
yeah, I mean, I've done a ton of mentorship around people, and like they'll sit there and go, "Oh my God, you wore a tie?" And you're like, see, when it's normal, you don't think about it. Everyone go, "Oh no, I would choke." You're like, no, not unless it gets grabbed and shoved down the machine. But no, you're fine. But yeah, for me, it's if people judge in appearances, and so if you're walking into an unknown, you have to kind of go with something vaguely conservative. And if they're in certain industries, that means shirt and tie. In other industries, it means like something business casually. At worst, I would go, right, okay, maybe do a polo shirt. But that would be, I would do recon on the actual company to figure out what they expect. Like, what do they wear? Yeah. What do they expect? Yeah, of course you do. Because, as I've said, like, no matter what we do, our job is to communicate things. I mean, we've got engineers that actually push a button. But once you've stopped pushing the button, everything else becomes about communication. Interviewed 1,000 people that want to be a pen tester. I want to be a pen tester. Do you like writing reports? What do you mean? Well, it's all well and good popping a shell, but if you can't tell people why that matters and what you did and how to fix it, then you've not done anything of any use whatsoever. You just had a bit of fun.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and I know I've already derailed like the intro. We'll get back on it in a second.
Yeah.
But one of my interview questions that I'll frequently ask is that I'll ask folks. Now this is kind of dated, but it's the example I always use. It's like what's port 23 used for? And you know, the book smart folks are always like, well, yeah, that's a thing called telnet. Okay, well that's good. Why should you block that at the firewall? And then a lot of times, if I get that deer in the headlight look, where it's just like, you know, you take in the knowledge, but they're trying to apply it, like very simple answer about it not being encrypted. That's where sometimes I think that we fail with regards to how we train folks. It's like, like you said, it's communicating not what we do, but why we do it from a business perspective, why it's so important. And I was so enthusiastic about what I just said there that I shook the desk and the camera shook. So. Anyway, back to Quorum. I'm sorry about that.
So Quorum ended up being be a consultant one day and run the security operations center. And that was, and whenever you work with startups are amazing to work in. I mean, there's a whole stress of in 6 months, will I have a job because it blew up? You know, like, somebody walks in and says, good news, we don't have any money. But yeah, that's where you like, if you are looking in your career to move and to move upwards, a startup gives you such wide-ranging extra visibility into bits of a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you can immediately go from like being quite technical with a little bit of consulting to having everything plus a ton of business knowledge. And I learned so much about product management and a whole bunch of things that just never came across my desk before.
Mhm.
And so it really fills you out and immediately then go, right, okay, you can do a really big step up from working in a startup in a quite small job as long as you roll your sleeves up, pitch in, and learn. And so I learned an absolute ton in Quorum. I took the guy that thought he was really good at, security and IT, and then went, right, actually, there's a ton more to learn, and that stuff will always keep going. And yeah, it's one of those ones where doing security for real, it was odd. I thought I was going to go in and immediately, I mean, yeah, I had a couple of staff that means like, oh, he's not really a security person because he's a manager or because he used to do IT. And once you crush their souls and all their motivation and give them crap work forever, they leave. It's great. But no, I mean, sometimes you just end up with like people that just will look down their nose at you because you didn't do a cybersecurity degree. And I'm like, right, but what? So communication, massively important. And one of the things that I taught everybody that ended up working for me in Quorum was just about the communicating and looking after each other is the most important thing, because I had a guy that asked me, is it okay if I have a longer lunch because the new iPhone's out and I want to go stand in the queue outside the Apple shop? And I'm like, it's the middle of the day. Is there anything urgent on your desk? No. I said, well, I don't care. Go.
Yeah.
Good luck. Because I know by giving somebody that flexibility and that empathy about their wants and their needs, that when I phone them at 2 o'clock in the morning going, I know you know this particular type of system and we've got an incident, that they'll answer the phone.
Absolutely.
And they're asking for me.
That's that sort of conversation, that sort of relationship building with your staff and with your coworkers. I think one of the worst things that my boss once said to me, this was at a job that was the shortest tenure. As soon as I could get out, I did. But I remember him telling me once, I was in the CISO position. He said, your job is not to make friends, because I would talk to people about things beyond like the security stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, no, my job is to make relationships, because that's how security works. I need to earn your trusts. We need to be able to talk where I'm not like a person that's going to say no or someone to be scared of all the time.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not approachable, then people will not tell you things when you probably need to know them.
Exactly.
And that's every time I do something like cybersecurity awareness in it with a company or something like that. You just sit there going, hi, you put the friendliest face on. I mean, I could walk in face like a thunder and start shouting at everybody for not being secure, but that's not going to bring them to my door to sit there and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? Because you need that, or you need I'm too embarrassed or frightened to report the fact that the mouse is moving by itself.
No, I mean, you've got a whole company of eyes and ears, better than any SIM monitoring that you have out there, or EDR or whatever.
Yeah. People will know. They might not be able to like tell you what is wrong, but they will tell you that something doesn't feel right, and they have to feel comfortable enough to approach you. And whether that's like, Genie in the back office, or whether that's somebody inside your own team, they have to have that trust that you're going to listen to them. So yeah, massively important.
So I have to ask you too, one item in your past that we didn't touch up on yet is you're the head of infrastructure and steering committee member for the COVID-19 Cyber Threat Coalition. What was that all about?
Well, so we suddenly all had to work from home. There was a few different bits and pieces, and as you're trolling Twitter as it was back then, and LinkedIn and stuff like that, and you're kind of reaching out and making conversations, people started to want to volunteer and help in some way. And the Cyber Coalition was one of two that I joined. The other one, I ended up not doing anything because I ended up focusing all my time with the Threat Coalition. But basically we wanted to create a CTI feed for hospitals, for everybody, that basically said, if there's a COVID scam or somebody using COVID type lures or anything around the pandemic, we basically wanted to create a threat intelligence feed that would help everybody. And that was a couple of thousand people in it at one point. Like it was just, and everybody wanted to help. Nobody really knew what to do, but one of the guys that was the kind of, he never really wanted to be the chief, but I ended up, was right, okay, let's, if other people are doing like some dodgy hackback stuff and other people are doing incident responses for free for hospitals and things like that stuff's covered by them. What can we do that would affect as many people as possible? And so we ended up having this amazing, like, there was dozens of companies just gave us their stuff. Like from Alien Vault and OTX, there was just tons. We had a full automation that somebody sent us that this is a potentially a dodgy link. We had a massive automation that would go and check it, clean it all up, and then pump it back out. And in the end, we managed to get it into Quad 9 and into a couple of different feeds and stuff like that. So tons of people actually were being protected by what we were doing without even having ever heard of us, because Quad 9 DNS, if you used it, it just never put you anywhere near the bad stuff. And so we were feeding that, and that was absolutely amazing. I have absolutely no idea how I ended up being. I was head of infrastructure because loads of people were running around with bits. And I was like, look, stop, everybody. You need to, like, we're building really big stuff. And it's all really exciting. Everybody's moving really fast. But we need stuff like password vault. So 1Password immediately jumped up and went, hey, here, have stuff. I was like, oh, great. And so, you know, we're building that, and it just ended up being the right. If somebody needs something infrastructure wise, you're in charge. I will then do X, Y, and Z to make things happen. But to be honest, yeah.
Oh, I love that, because obviously the whole COVID period was very weird in some ways, and a new thing that I hope that we don't have to quite experience. And it kind of brought out a lot of good in folks. So there was a lot of, like, this particular example of volunteering to do something well. But unfortunately, and I'll just touch on this, I'm not really going to go down the path of discussing it, but it, in some ways, it went the other way as well. And what I'm particularly thinking about is this one group that I won't name, but they're a security networking group, and it's more like a marketing thing, like a for-profit. They sponsor things, and you know, vendors sponsor, and they get security executives together and have a party or whatever. And the person who was leading it at the time asked me, because I was somewhat involved with it at the time, what's something that we can do? Or no, I think that the way it was approached was, what do you think about us getting some security leaders together and creating some sort of a slide deck or something, or some sort of a resource that then we can offer at a certain price point to small businesses that are having issues? And I said, why don't you just give that away for free? Everybody is like, why are you trying to monetize something that is screwing up everybody now?
Yeah, and we did see that at the end. So once there was it was such a great group of people, including a whole bunch of people that started, because everybody was working from home. We all of a sudden started seeing people doing this a lot. So we all had standing desks, because that was a thing. Even, to be honest, I had this standing desk. It's had different tops over the years, but you know, it still goes up and down. Yeah. But yeah, people walking in meetings on the walking treadmills. Mm-hmm. So and you're just sitting there going, I was like, yeah, I need to get my steps in. You're like, right, and apparently, like, it was Sophos. A whole bunch of them at Sophos were involved. They did tons of things. But they were all on treadmills or in the call. So it would be like in a call every couple of nights. And you'd have people that were like, and you're sitting going, I don't know how to, it's hard to make eye contact and talk to people over video, right? I mean, that's why in-person meetings work a lot better for some things.
That's true. Yeah.
But even worse, when you've got somebody like, you're like, right, I don't like, do I like, and you're like, no. And apparently they were doing like 30, 40 miles a day on these treadmills. And I'm like, it's like, I mean, like some of these guys were like in apartments in New York. I mean, we had people all over the world.
I tried to do that. I've tried to do the walking treadmill, and if I don't have something to hold on to, I lose my.
No, I mean, like they're
I just fall right off
and stuff like that, and typing away, and I'm like, how? I mean, like, and like you'd end up getting to like pan their camera around, so you can see exactly how things are set up, and yeah, and then there's the bike thing as well for under the desk. Yeah, and like you're sitting going, yeah, that just makes the table wobble slightly and their heads wobble as well. And you're like, yeah, that was one of the really strange things.
I don't know how much exercise you actually get from one of those things. Yeah.
Me neither. But I mean,
it was just so.
He's out of puff a lot of the time. I mean, because we catching him at the end of his working day, and he's already done like 20, 30 miles on this thing, and so he'd be like absolutely exhausted. And I'm like, is it? Again, it comes down to everybody says exercise, everybody says jog or something like that, and then you get the next thing that comes along and says, oh my God, people that jog will have no knees or hips or ankles. And you go, yeah, everything in moderation is what you should do. Walking on a treadmill continually that amount, you're like, that must be bad for tendons or joints or something. But yeah, the COVID...
or maybe even just for spatial awareness, because you're walking, but you're not really walking. Your mind should expect you to be going forward, but you're not going forward. And I don't know. I think that might screw with the mind. Somebody, I can't run on treadmills. I often joke. We talked about this beforehand. I say this joke before every podcast when I'm briefing the guests. It's just like, I don't like to go over 30 minutes because I envision people listening to this on a treadmill. And I just think it's cruel to be on a treadmill for more than 30 minutes. So
if I go to the gym, I spend time on the thing, but I've never been I cannot run. It just doesn't work for me. I know plenty of people that do and really enjoy it. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't do it for me. But I think the podcast on the treadmill is a really nice warm up, stroke and cool down. Once I start to go and do weights or something else.
But I can't listen to Joe Rogan on it. It's like, that's 4 hours on a treadmill. I can't do that. But
I don't think you have to stay on the treadmill until the podcast finishes. You do have control.
Okay, there is freedom. Okay. Let me get back to the stuff that you've done and what you're doing. I want to hear about what you're doing at Damn Good Security. First of all, I want to tell me about two things. First of all, how did you come up with the name? And second, you have, and I don't know if this is specifically with Damn Good Security or if it's just you in general, but you describe cyber risk reducer. That's one of the ways you describe yourself. And
so Damn Good Security is easy. That one is we were after building. I mean, I did Quorum and then went off to National Grid that span out the national gas in the UK, and I built the security operations from the ground up there, and that was like massively interesting, stressful, and like insane budgets with weird strings attached and things like that. And you can't go out for dinner with anyone without fear that you might get called up by the regulator. But it was a very bizarro world. But after that, I missed when I worked with Quorum very in the beginning of the startup. I got to work with lots of small businesses because your startup, you're not getting the X 100,000K contracts. Instead, you're doing small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and I missed working with them. I loved working with lots of different types of businesses and finding out what makes them tick. Because, I was speaking to somebody that works in the space industry, and I was like, "Oh, it's space industry, brilliant!" And my brain immediately goes to risks. What risks do you have to worry about? IP theft, China. Physical damage from make rocket fall sideways, all these sorts of things. And I was like, right, okay, I was like, right, okay, so yeah, so that stuff must be like stressful. The biggest stress is finding the satellite after we've launched it. Apparently, they launch a satellite and it can take them 2 months to find it afterwards.
Really? I mean, you would think these things would have like an air tag on them or something, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was no. I've seen movies. I know that there's a basement in the States somewhere where somebody's tracking every nut and bolt that's flying about in the mess, and they're like, nah.
Absolutely. It's somebody who's like about 35 years old,
Yeah.
an addict to Mountain Dew and Doritos, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
start
Apparently,
they are the communications hub for the world, and they can save
now,
the world.
if you are wanting to send an RF signal anywhere in the world, that's another problem, because as your satellite's going round and round, you're crossing lots of international boundaries, and so if you've not paid the license in each place, you get jammed straight off the bat. But no, apparently when they launch a satellite, they've got a cone trajectory of where it will be released. They know where it's going to be released, and then it goes out, but they don't really know what speed it's going to go out and exactly, and so apparently it takes up to 2 months to find it. And I'm like, that is, after all the work that they do, and we had a chat about the fact that their PCBs are all printed in opaque plastic nowadays, and so that to reduce the intelligence gathering on what the circuit board looks like and stuff like that. I was, oh, this is right. This is really interesting. And he hits me with this, oh yeah, and then we need to find it. I'm like, find it?
I would never have thought.
This stuff is fantastic. And you go, right, okay. And so working with lots of different businesses, and when I worked with Quorum, we were trying to do the 7 small businesses, 3 mediums, 1 large, to keep a balance of you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, even as a startup. If somebody comes along and says, hey, there's a tendency of big businesses to find boutique security firms and go, yeah, if we become your biggest customer, that means you will do anything we say. Right. And that's a danger to derailing your business and the way you want to.
That's a huge, you never want to have more than, like, I'd say 15-18% of your.
Oh, yeah. When you're, yeah. It was, and we always, but as the company grew, the definitions of small and medium, and you've got different investors coming in, and so your definition of small starts going up and up, and to the point where it's like, right, okay, we've kind of lost small, and then of course it went off and did national gas, and that's like as big as you're likely to get in terms of threats and things you're going to build. I was like, right, and because I dragged a couple of guys around with me on these kind of voyages, we went, let's go build something that does small and medium, and only does the big ones to help pay for the small ones. So go and do a big fintech job. Well, that lets you help the really small, like e-commerce and all these sorts of things. So it's about Damn Good Security it was the brainchild of 3 of us. David, Gerard, Scott, DGS, and then they went DGS, and one of our spouses went Damn Good Security then. So it is our initials.
I was trying during that entire story to try to get ahead of you to figure out where it was going and how you were going to bring it home. And I'm like, I have no idea where this is going.
It's one of these ones where, it was like that. We wanted to build this thing, and we wanted to focus on these particular types of customers, which is an interesting challenge to say the least at times. But yeah, the actual name just ended up being essentially the initials of the founders, which is kind of.
So is getting back now to cyber risk reducer, because I really thought that the DGS thing was going to be a very short segment and then going on to
cyber risk reducer is easy. I go and find your cyber, look at risks from a cyber point of view. I mean, that's my speciality, and then make those risks smaller. That's what all of us in cybersecurity or infosec. That's what we're there to do. We can't make it go away, short of cutting all the cables and cover it in cement. So ultimately, I want to find the risks and then work on each one individually to make it smaller, as small as possible.
But do you see that being prevalent in our industry, or not as prevalent?
Oh no, we get completely caught up on the buy the shiny, find the. We get caught. Our industry is clickbait, and it's a pet peeve. because we're always chasing the latest headlines. We're always doing that. And for me, if CrowdStrike will release some report on, X, Y, and Z, one, when I was working with CNI, I knew half that stuff already. It just wasn't allowed to tell anyone, which you're like, it's a bit meh. But it ends up being that, right, okay, yeah, we're all going to go chase that. We're all going to chase this problem. We're all going to chase this particular patch that needs to go out. And if you're continually chasing the next thing, you are losing your strategic program. You're losing what you're actually trying to build in an organization. I mean, I've seen security teams that just chase, and they still don't know what Genie in the office does.
And I think sometimes the soapbox that I stand on that's related to this is when we tell people that you need to do X or whatever, you need to do something, you need to do multi-factor, but you're never explaining the why behind it. You might put in a little bit of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and say, if you don't do this, then your car will explode when you turn the ignition. It's like, or something ridiculous like that. Never really giving them an idea of what the relative risk is, because like I'll have discussions with folks, sometimes disagreements about here's one example about the juice jacking with USB ports and all that in airports and all that. Yeah, it could happen. Yeah, it's very possible. But when was the first time that you ever heard of that happening in the wild? It just never happened. And so we're spending all this time telling people don't plug into there because that's the worst thing in the world. And your head is going to explode if you do that, but without conveying the idea of risk instead, and let them make the risk-informed decision.
Yeah, and I think one of the big problems behind it ends up being that we're not even just the boy that cried wolf all the time, because people go, all right, I'll follow your advice. But in your juice jacking example, they then turn around and look at everybody that's getting a charge on their phone from these things going, but those people all seem fine. And I'm sitting here with no charge in my phone, and I need things.
And that's a bigger risk.
And you're telling me no. Yeah, of course it is. If you just don't go, right, okay, I now can't get on the plane because my tickets are on my phone, I have no charge. But good news, the Chinese haven't hacked my phone via the USB cable. You're like,
amen. So
sure,
good.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, cyber risk reducer is about looking about those things. I mean, I try to avoid the kind of FUD presentations. I mean, I get asked to do them occasionally, as like if you do a keynote or something like that. It's like, even National Gas went, you can have 3 minutes to talk in front of everybody. And I'm like, right, I can't even like get on stage in 3 minutes, but okay. And then, right, okay, and I end up doing a talk around they wanted like your phone, the signals coming out your phone, the signals coming out your car, and basically just sitting there going, look, we've got access to all of these things. Your car can tell whether you're having an affair. Here's a whole bunch of things. But are you going to not drive a car anymore? And it is about, right, okay, if you are doing something stupid that the Chinese can blackmail you into compromising critical national infrastructure, the problem is not with your car.
It's what you're doing. It's like
it is the right, okay, and if you are doing that stuff, then go come clean, because you can't be blackmailed if everybody knows about it. No matter how embarrassing it is, go come clean.
That's why I've got complete peace. I'm like, you can go ahead and get me. It's like, I don't have anything, It's like, it's like, this is it.
Yeah, the wife got most of it in the divorce. I don't have anything.
I know people, and this isn't as prevalent now, but people that are like so upset or so worried about, I don't want to be on a podcast because I don't want people to have my voice, and maybe that they can record it and clone it and this and that. I'm like,
I mean, I've done I've cloned the CEO voice from a 10-minute podcast and stuff like that. I'm saying, yeah, but the point is, and this is one of the big things about cyber risk reducing, is that I have this panacea thing. The thing that I want to get to is to have a company that no matter what one person does with their keyboard and their mouse and the clicky click click, that cannot affect the rest of the business.
Right.
If you can build that, if no matter what if Genie in the back office clicks on some invoice from a supplier that's had business email compromise, whatever, but she clicks on it and the PDF does something horrible to her machine. That cannot affect what the business does.
That's why the solution will never, ever be solely human. It's just like it's never.
Oh, no, it cannot be. It's a processing. It's not a technology thing. I mean, everybody goes, well, what we'll do is we'll go and buy a bigger, better phishing protection system, and we'll now do, like, we'll hammer people with phishing, and people will click. Anyone that says I will never click on a phishing email, liar. Or
no, it's going to happen no matter what awareness training you have.
On a bad day, bad time, somebody will click on the thingy. These things are impossible. AI coming along, making it, I've had that whole, even before AI came along, I've done with incidents where, the bad guy is talking for months with someone on a compromised account, and then goes oh yeah, and the bank details have changed, here are the details.
So if you can,
and then X 100,000 walks out the door.
If you can rearrange your processes so you never have that exposure.
Yeah, I mean,
you're taking away the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, and COVID was a big problem for that because everybody suddenly went home, and so I was asked to review an incident for an insurance thing. I was looking at going, it was horrible because business email compromised, money went AWOL, and they went, right, what went wrong? I said, well, all the incident response went horribly wrong, right? Because the IT firm was doing it. And they did have one IT guy that went, this looks a bit funny, but he was, that's not important. But the process was, if somebody asked for the bank details to be changed, go around and speak to the lawyer in charge of the case, conveyancing case, to approve it. But they were suddenly all at home. And so she went, oh, right. And they didn't have phones. They were basically just, hitting people with like Teams and email. And of course, the bad guys already got the internal lawyers like things. So when she emailed, is this okay? Bad guy just went, yes, it is, thanks. And so at that point, the money goes out the thing. And so she ends up losing her job because she didn't follow process. And you're like, well, that's harsh because of the whole COVID thing. But the process was already in place to protect those funds, but it wasn't followed. And if you have the process right, and that's cyber risk reducing quite often, it's about the process, whether it's the process of teaching people or whether it's processes in the business. And yeah, nobody has an asset inventory when I start, and you're like, right, okay, go and do that. But getting the process inventory, that's the one that ends up being and they're like, why? It's like, because I need to know what are your critical processes. It's easy to spot a critical asset because you've probably got all your stuff on it. Right. But what's your critical processes? Because I need to map your protections to your processes. The assets are secondary to the processes, because if the process has a backup, then the asset becomes less critical as well, and I can spend less money fixing it.
Yeah, but still, all of this stuff can be incredibly stressful. I know we carry a lot of stress in what we do just by nature of how we do it. And I always encourage people to step away sometimes. The job does not or should not be your life. You need to decompress and hopefully do it in a positive way. So I always love asking people, and I'm going to ask you this, Dave, what's one of the things that you do to decompress from all the stresses associated with what we do?
I like to hunt people at night and murder them. For me, dog, like walk dog, got kids, so it's like go forth and do art with the kids or something along those lines. Just sitting there going thingy. I'm a massive Denver Broncos fan, go Broncos, so that for part of the season that works. Lego and nerdy stuff, so it is just right. Okay, you can push it all to the side and just go. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Something involved clever engineering and Lego, because my brain has to then focus on that and is really interested in the physical interplay between things. So I actually find that is quite a good break from the billion threats with a threat on top of that one with but what if this happens, following a simple set of instructions and then marveling at a clever piece of engineering, or the fact that, inside this set here, they've actually built a little thing there. And you're like, oh, wow, that's like nice. I also analyze just how much crap Lego decide to go, that could have been that, like you put 3 bits there, that could have been 1. But you wanted the piece count up, and then I start ranting about the commercialization and things. But ultimately, definitely something that you can do with your hands and your brain I mean, there's guitar in the corner that I badly smash about with, and yeah, I mean, yeah, to be honest, the guitar normally comes out during meetings when I'm bored, and people go, "We can hear you," like mute. Yeah,
Gives something
yeah,
to do
no,
as far as like fingering and all that. So
yeah, I mean, it is. It's just like the yeah, but ultimately, so yeah, go find something clever and that takes your brain completely away from what can be. I've dealt with people hacking kids' cancer charities. That does not
yeah,
leave you with a good taste in your brain at the end of the day.
no,
You're like, this is just, oh, how could people be like that? So find nice things. I do tons of stuff in the cyber community about helping people in their careers and things like that. So, but that is about telling them to go find hobbies. So my hobby is telling people to find hobbies. Uh, yeah.
So, future plans. What future plans does Damn Good Security have, or what do you have, or do they dovetail?
Do they dovetail? To be honest, for the last couple of years, I've been quite quiet. So, working away, I've done less talks, less events and stuff like that because I was getting slightly jaded and burnt out. I mean, when you do the critical national infrastructure stuff, that's a lot. That is what's a bad day look like, and they immediately start reeling up. It's X billion a day. This many people will die. You're like, oh right, that's a lot of stress to make sure that you're putting stuff in right. So yeah, the basically just continuing to build, like helping small and medium-sized businesses. And to be honest, yeah, I'm down now to go and do like 3 or 4 different talks. I think I'm going to Romania next year to do a talk. Never been to Romania. I'm like, yeah, why not? Because it literally just went past in CFP. I'm like, yeah, I can throw in 1 of 5 different talk ideas. I'll have to figure out which one I submitted and then go and write the talk. But yeah, doing stuff like that, and getting more back into the public eye again, I suppose, actually, to be honest, because I've been quite quiet with building the business and stuff. And then I'm like, right, okay, let's go do, because meeting people on the road, finding their businesses and stuff like that stuff's just fun.
Yeah. Well, good. I appreciate the time. It's been a great conversation. I apologize to folks on treadmills that might be listening to this because you had to do an extra mile or 2.
Faster.
Yeah. Go faster, otherwise we're going to keep on talking and you got to keep on listening. So it's like it's too bad. But no, Dave, I really appreciate the conversation. Fascinating stuff. Great talking with you. I also appreciate you filling in when I had a cancellation at the last minute. We'll have to do this again sometime because I got a host of so many other things I'd love to talk to you about, just never got to. But thanks again for joining us today.
Anytime. Thanks.
And everybody, stay secure.